Heather Hoffman. I'm the federal liaison between the WestFAST and the Western States Water Council and the host of today's presentation. Today, we will be hearing about exciting new tools from the Western States Water Council, but before I hand it off to them, please note this webinar will be recorded and posted to the WestFAST tab located on the Western States Water Council webpage at westernstateswater.org. So if you'd like to go back and refer to something you saw today, please go ahead and visit that site for recording. So with that, I'll pass it on to Tony, Otto, and Ryan to get started.
I'm Tony Willardson. I'm the Executive Director of the Western States Water Council, and while I think most of you are familiar with the Council and WestFAST, I would just note that the Council was created as a government entity back in 1965 to advise Western governors on water policy. We have 18 member states. The governors are ex officio members, and they appoint the members of the Council, 3 from each state and as many alternates as they wish. So the Council has been involved with water data in a number of different capacities for many years. But beginning in 2004, asked our members for some information related to their water use and water planning for the future. And I recall when we asked for 20 or 30 years in the future what water use would be, one of the best responses I got was, these are unsubstantiated estimates. And I would note that we provided to them some of the information that came from the U.S. Geological Survey in the 1995 National Water Use Assessment. And some states responded, those are the numbers that we gave them, and others responded, we have no idea where they got those numbers. In 2009, under the Recovery Act at that time, there was some funding through the Department of Energy that the governors administered to look at wildlife corridors and water as it related to energy development and transmission. And the council began at that point working with Sandia National Lab to come up with some sort of a consistent West-wide estimate of water availability for energy development and transmission. And it became apparent that there were a lot of diverse data sets, and there was no one place to find that kind of information. So that led to the Council's Water Data Exchange, and more recently to the development of what we call our Western States Water Data Access and Analysis Tool, or WestDAT, which Otto and Ryan are going to demonstrate. I would note that what you'll see is state water right data information. We will talk about state recognized federal water uses. It does not include Federal Reserve rights, nor have we attempted to include tribal rights, although we understand those are very important, and the Council has been very active in settlement, in pushing settlement agreements through Congress. For your information, my background is in political science, public administration, business management, and economics. And from my personal perspective, as we look to the future, water marketing is going to play a much bigger role in meeting our future water needs. And the one thing I did learn in economics was to have well-working markets, you have to have well-defined rights. So from that perspective, I'm looking forward to what we can do with this tool. But I think it's also one of those, if you build it, they will come. And so we hope to get feedback from you as well as test our system. And I'll turn it over to Otto.
Thank you, Tony, for the introduction. So I will share my screen. And yeah, as Tony said, we're here to give you an overview of our data, WestDAT, and the data system that we have a plan to publicly release it in March next year. And we have a few things to finalize before then. One of them is to make sure that the test performs okay under a lot of visits and hits from so many people at the same time. And so I will take 10 minutes to overview Wade for those of you who aren't familiar with, and I apologize for those of you who have seen some of those slides. before, and then I'll turn it to Ryan James, my colleague, is our amazing data analyst, who will give you a brief demo of our tools, and then we will share the link to WestDat in the chat, and we hope that you would take. We're thinking of like half an hour of testing, and so we would hope that you would click at that link and look into interesting data queries about water rights across the West. And Ryan will, as I said, will kind of give an overview of how that works. I will be watching in the back end of our system. We have metrics that show how many visits and hits and the bottlenecks. So hopefully the more of you participate, the more, that would help us see if the design or the number of CPUs that we have in Microsoft Azure Cloud are enough or not. And so I will share this screen right now. Okay. And yeah, Ryan, I'll point to a few. I shared the PowerPoint file with you, and if you could share some of those links as I talk about them, that'll be great. Thank you. So yeah, as Tony said,
Hi, Otto. Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you see my screen?
I can. I am unable to share links with the account I'm on right now. I apologize.
It's okay. Teams sometimes, let's see. I don't have chat either. No, I do have the chat. It's okay. I'll share them. Well, let me see. Heather, is it possible for you to, oh, I can see the chat here for me. Is it possible for you to let Ryan, I don't know,
Yeah,
chat?
let me see what I can do with settings. I'll look into that right now. Yep.
Thank you. Yeah, so Tony, we were looking into a big mouthful term to describe our system, and Tony coined the term WestDat for our Western States Water Data Access and Analysis Tool. And as all of you, I'm going to go quickly here. All of you are aware there are these amazing federal data services for EPA, USGS, and reclamation that provide regional and national access to all that stream gauge data, reservoir data, and so forth. But when it comes to water rights, which define who has the right to use water and how much and the timing and so forth, and who has the priority in the West, this data is scattered across state data sets. And so Wade, we're uniquely positioned to provide access to all this data in a consistent way. And we're also working on state operated gauges and reservoirs, so providing streamlined access to that data, and site-specific withdrawals and aggregate water budget estimates, as well as the states provide that data, and then the regulations that are in effect that regulate groundwater or surface water across the West. And USGS does estimate water use once every 5 years, but it takes them 5 years, as you can imagine, to put that data together. So we're working with them to streamline states' water use data through Wade and their system, and we have been working with them on a pilot to share data for a few states. Many of you are familiar with this, but the Wade, we've been celebrating 10 years since Wade was established, as Tony mentioned, back in late 2011. And we went through a lot of improvements over time. And we're now at the third phase, where we're focusing on providing streamlined access and data analysis and supporting use cases and informing decision making discussions across the West. There's a nice article here that we wrote to our partners at the Internet of Water about the history of Wade. For those of you who are interested, we can share this link with you, and it's part of the slides and the recording. Generally, what we do, and that's what Ryan, my colleague Ryan James, does most of his time. We harvest the state's public data online systems, and we work closely with our state agencies to get their data in different formats and shapes and terminology into a standardized system. We load them into a cloud centralized database. So we have a mirror copy of the best data that the states have in a format and structure and terminology consistent across the West. I'll talk about terminology in a second here. And then we make that data programmatically available through web services, application programming interfaces, APIs. And really one of the exciting efforts here is to integrate the state's data, tempted to say are, but it's the state's data with other national data sets through the GConnects project by the Internet of Water Group and USGS. I'll talk about that for a second. We document our entire system, data mapping and all that, and Ryan does a great job on that on GitHub. So you can see how, say, Ryan mapped Texas or Utah or Nevada's data into Wade and what assumptions, or if any, we made. And we don't change any state's data. We basically fit it into our structure and terminology. So for terminology, as you can imagine, if you want to do regional analysis across states lines, we identified like 86 unique beneficial use terms that describe the legal way of putting water in the West to use. And so we narrow them down with the help of our legal counsel, Michelle Bushman, to 20 terms, and Ryan will show how that works. And then similar to water source types and site type, to describing the diversion type, whether it's, say, a reservoir, it's a groundwater, or a spring. And then we're struggling to come up with these unique terms for legal status and water allocation type. And Michelle Bushman is helping us, along with the legal committee of the Western States Water Council, to come up with terms that map across the states without making any, without compromising how those initial terms of what they mean at the state level. So we've been working for the past year on engaging with different groups, how our system design can work for them. I'm seeing here, there's a beep. Let's see. Yeah, I'm not hearing a beep. I hope you can hear me fine. Okay.
Yeah, it could be turning off notifications may help with that. If folks want to try that, up at the top bar under the More Actions drop down, there's a mute notifications option. So try that and see if that helps. If not, let me know in the chat, please.
Great. Thanks, Heather. So we initially, almost 2 years ago, we wrote a document, and the link is at the bottom here, about how we envisioned different categories of users could use our data system and the data that we're working on to streamline access to. And with the help of many of you and Tony, we categorized these 6 users, and we added back at the time, so we came up with these fictional names kind of to rhyme. Gary, the governor, so the governor staff, and the WGA staff level that work with governors, to see how that could be useful to them. And then we held a workshop at the past summer council meeting for the state engineer persona, looking at how state engineers could use our system. And then we held a workshop at the CRUA meeting in Las Vegas last year. And we're scheduling a call with the Family Farm Alliance group sometime in January. And then we've been working with the researchers. And then I added at the time back then in that document, Fred, the Fed, representing a persona of a federal employee looking into using that data across state lines. And this document exists here, the link there. As I said, we integrate our system with this GConnects project, and there is a webinar if you're interested to know about GConnects next Tuesday, December 6th, by the Internet of Water Group, and there's a link here. We'll share that link with you. What GConnects does, it links water features. Think of a think of a gauge station or a reservoir that have data across federal agencies or even state agencies together through persistent identifiers, what they call them, that the URL for that link wouldn't change even if the state changed it. We just kind of they would update it, and there's a unique landing page for each water feature across the different agencies, including the data provided by the states to Wade. So we envision, or they envision, we work with them closely to be able to, they're building the foundation of Google, similar to Google service for water data across all the federal and state agencies here. Yeah, please attend that workshop if you're interested. I'm gonna acknowledge and thank all the philanthropic funding that we've been receiving for the many years. And initially we had funding from EPA, and our federal liaison, Dwayne Young, back in 2011. He helped create the Wade Architecture 1.0, and of course, this would not be possible without the help of our Western States Water Council members and agencies and their staff to help us map the data, understand it, and make it available publicly. And we work with different groups here. I'd like to acknowledge Reclamation. We have a grant, a Water Smart grant, funding us to build this tool that you'll be working with. The Internet of Water, USGS, and the Lincoln Institute, and then Duke and Quasi. Ryan, I'll turn it to you and to demo WestDat. Let's see, let me stop sharing the screen here. Or I guess before we do that, any questions or comments here before we dive into a demo, and then we'll share the link with you for testing. I see some comments about microphones and issues. I'm not hearing any beeping, or it sounds okay to me here.
Yeah, it's only a few people that are hearing a beep, but I tried to look up some workarounds and I posted that. Oh, someone exited and rejoined, and that was successful. So maybe if others want to try to hop off and then back.
Good. Okay, Ryan, are you ready to demo WestDat?
I apologize, Otto. The account I'm on is not an organizer or a presenter, so I do not have the ability to access chat or screen share today.
Oh,
I may.
Sure. Let me try again.
I believe it's my fault. I have 3 different team accounts I have to juggle lately, and the passwords I've gone for each of those have been crisscross. So I am unable to present at this time, Otto. If you are able to do that with WestStat.
That's all right. And yeah, we do. I faced those issues with Teams with our IT contractor channel, team channel, and it's, yeah, it can be frustrating. All right. Okay. Well, I'm glad it's a web browser, so anyone can access it, including myself here. Thanks, Ryan. So, okay, can you see my screen, right?
Yes.
Great. Okay, so we will share the link with you shortly. And here's WestDat. It's accessible through a web browser. It's free, public, and all these dots you see and polygons on the map are points of diversions and places of use of permitted groundwater or surface water rights across the West. And the color code here is for beneficial use, the 20 plus beneficial use terms that we call them Wade term beneficial uses that they map across the 300 plus terms throughout the West. And you can toggle quickly here between beneficial use, color code, or legend into owner classification. And this is interesting. We classified, or Ryan built an algorithm to classify water rights based on the owner name as provided by the state. And you can quickly see the many federal agencies that we were able to see that the states recognized rights for them, including reclamation. And we were working closely with a reclamation team on classifying their water rights, and Forest Service and BLM. Actually, I can jump quickly here into a quick demo because I think this could be of interest to you. Yes,
if I can add just real quickly, there is obviously a glaring omission in Wyoming, and primarily that is stock water rights that Wyoming has not provided, does not now have data available. And as I mentioned in my introduction, if you look at the Four Corners area, you can pretty much map out the Navajo Nation with that white space there. So, or in Utah, the West Desert. So, there are areas where we do not have data at this point for some users.
Correct. And the state of New Mexico and Texas, their data is incomplete, but we're providing sort of the best what we've got so far, and we hopefully will continue to work with them to improve that data, including Wyoming as well. You can see Colorado and Kansas and Nebraska, they did not have, or at least publicly provide, an owner name. And so Ryan marked them as unspecified here, so we can't provide federal recognized state water rights here easily. And so I'm hoping, so I'm going to share the link with you shortly. So I'm hoping you could go here and look at, oh, let me close this. There's this arrow you'll see, and if you click here, it'll open this tab for all these different kinds of filters. And one of them is owner classification, and you can choose Bureau of Reclamation as an example. And Mapbox has, oh, I forgot to mention that we have 1.5 million water rights here, and they're kind of layered on top of each other. Think of them like as your house. You wouldn't be able to see your house from this high level, so you would need to zoom in on Google Maps, sorry, to zoom in, and then more will start to show up. We resolved that as far as someone wanted to get all that data into their system and do some analysis. If you click at this analytics and table, it'll show all the Bureau of Reclamation water rights here, and then you could download them. You could do some pie chart and quick analytics here. We have 1,600 water rights as recognized by the states for reclamation. And you can see the different categories of beneficial use, how much permitted CFS or acre feet to each beneficial use category. I know that some of these consumptive versus non-consumptive, we have a filter for that. If you want to download data, we support downloading up to 100,000 records or water rights, and you would need to create an account to do that. It's free. There are a few steps here. If you click sign in, it should prompt you to do that. And then once you create the account, you could click download. It will give you that data in a friendly format that you can, as a non-data scientist necessarily, like you can make sense of that data in an easy way, hopefully. There are more stuff here to do with these filters. I'll leave it to you. There is some interesting toggle of looking at the flow and volume based on like how much of those you can change the circle size. Another interesting tool I want to jump into. Oh, I always forget to do that.
Oh,
So
there's one question in the chat asking, is this data live from a point in time?
So it is live. Let me see, live from the states data. Is that what the? I can't see the chat.
It's from a point.
The answer is no, the data is not live. This is coming from our own database structure. The data we get at this time is just typically hard copies or copies of an API from the state agency. That gives us time to review the data with the states, map it into the WADE system. We do make it a big effort to not change state data as best we can. The goal is to help share data across regional analysis, not to reinterpret the state's own data. We do a little trickery with our own WestStat categories. That tends to get approval from the states, though. That is mostly just organizational effort, so we can take all those 432 beneficial uses and categorize those down to a smaller, manageable number, things like that. But that does come with state approval. The big goal of WADE is to get that all as live as we can get it here down the road. That does heavily rely on the state's capability of keeping that data live from a service. Some states have done better than others. Others are still in the process of developing that network and technology. But at this time, no, the data is not live. It's just hard copies from what the states have available to the public and what we've been able to get access to from state organizations.
And Ryan Ottle, I could add to that, though, as this is water rights data, it is relatively static in that it does not change much. We will update it when we get new data from the state, but that would be in water right transfers. And I would point out at this point that as part of the state processes, they have also provided information on water rights that have been denied or have not yet been approved, and those are included at this point in our database. So all of those dots may not be actual approved use.
And just to touch on that too, our state contacts have been pretty good about letting us know if a big change has happened with the state data. Tony is correct that the data is mostly static, so it does not change that often. We do try to stay in touch with them just in case they've made big changes or if there are big changes in water rights. And they're pretty good to let us know when something has happened.
Great, thank you, Tony and Ryan. So I wanted to demo a quick one here before I jump to another really fun and nice feature. So you can click at any point diversion or place of use polygon, and it would open, there's a card, and it would open a a landing page universal across the 17 states. And we're working on Alaska's data. I saw Kevin Petron there, so thank you for joining. And so you could look at this reclamation water right that we classified, and it's a lawn and garden beneficial use, how it's, and you can look its location here. In some areas like Idaho and I think Nevada, they've done a good job in linking point of use and place of use and point of diversion. In this case, it's not, but you can see it's kind of downstream of a dam here. Is this it?
I am not seeing a landing page.
Oh, okay. Thanks for letting me know. I think.
I'm just seeing the reclamation rights in Montana. So
I think I opened another tab and it seems like it did not. Okay, so here's hopefully the landing page, right?
yes, we can see it now.
So we document all the key metadata, beneficial use, assigned flow or volume to that right, and the priority date to it. And then here's the point of diversion below a dam. For the interest of time, I'm going to go back. Are you seeing the other tab or still the landing page?
The other tab, Eastern
Good.
Montana, Western
Okay,
Montana.
great. So we do have river basin filters here. We supported about 10 river basins. You could filter them like the Colorado River Basin, an interesting example given the drought. And I'll let you play with that. And then you can go back in time to when the compact was signed, November 24, 1922, and see the water rights. Okay, I'm outside the basin. It's taking time. What? That's interesting. I might need to refresh this. So, okay, so we sort of cut all the water rights to be within the basin. It takes time to load. That's a long time, more than usual. Okay, and so I toggled here to look at the flow, so it sort of scales the big point of diversions within the river. And this interesting water right was signed right before the compact that year in Wyoming. It's a big one. For the interest of time, I'll leave it to you to play with that. There's another really interesting feature. Anywhere across the West, you can, if you click at this arrow here, there's NLDI filter. This is the National Stream Network or Hydro Network Linked Data Index. It's a jargony term that allows you to drag and drop your mouse here, anywhere in the West, and it will navigate, or it will delineate the watershed upstream and downstream for you and query water rights that are upstream of any point. And there's some interesting applications there. I'll leave it to you to play with that tool as well. Any other thing, Tony, you'd like to mention before I share the link with the group?
No, I don't think so. You did mention the priority dates, but there is also there is a filter where you can put in a priority date and find any of the water rights that predate that.
Correct. So there's this range. You could choose from within a range, or you could say up to this date. And yeah, you could search within a range if someone is interested in looking at water rights within a few years back in time. We are working on, let me share this. I don't know if I doubt if Teams is showing this other screen. I'm just going to give you a glimpse of the other things we're working on in case that sparks any interest. Oh, not this. Well, okay. Well, here's aggregate water data across the West water budget data as provided by the states and estimated by their water budget models. You can click at any watershed or custom area or county, and it will send you to a landing page. And this is a prototype that Ryan built. It's not yet part of WestStat, but it will tell you the different consumptive use or withdrawals, different states. There's an interesting, really fun app here we're building, so you can zoom in into public water supply boundaries or service areas in the West. Here's in the state of Utah, one of the best examples we have, and here's this city, Buena Vista Water District. You can look at its boundary, and these arrows here, they're pointing to the point of the version that provide this city with water, and you can look at the historic water use from that city, and both at if they provided the point of the version and then the delivered water to customers. The other one I'm going to conclude here is this really interesting one. And I joked that we're competing with USGS, but we're not. We're making the states run and operate gauge stations and reservoirs data accessible through WADE. And all these sites dots you see on the map, these are sort of ditches or canals and withdrawal sites that the states have data for, but they're not available otherwise in any national format, like regional way. So WADE's gonna provide this access to them. Let me stop here and then let's share the link and let you guys play with it. Okay, so here is the link. Okay, so I just shared the link to our westdat.westernstatewater.org link. I'm hoping you would click at it and just explore and run queries and filters as you wish. And that should help us a lot. And then we have a digital whiteboard that would provide you the opportunity to give feedback. You wouldn't need to log in or do anything, just you could do it as a visitor. Let me see here. Here's the link to the whiteboard. If you click at it and then double click anywhere on that board, you're welcome to leave any anonymous name. You don't have to leave a name if you choose, so you don't need a login. And yeah, just double click there and then you can add any comment inside the box that is created by a double click. Any questions or comments?
And all of those links are in the chat.
Yeah, correct. Yes, thanks, Tony. So
I have a question.
See, yeah, hey, Roger. Where's your guitar?
All right.
All right,
hang on. But anyway, I'll have to futz with the blurring. So a question that got me thinking, and it was either you or Tony mentioned applications of the tool. Could this be used by a water user that is saying, look, I know I'm not going to have enough water because of, I'm in the drought. They could come to the, I thought it was called the Really Cool tool, not the WestStat, but be that as it may. They could come here and look at it and see who's upstream of them, who might have a senior right, either up from them or below from them in a waterway. And that potentially could help facilitate a transfer. If they knew who had water, that they could approach that person or that entity to be able to facilitate a transfer. Am I thinking about the applicability of the tool from a water user's perspective?
Tony, would you like to answer that
I was
question?
going to say maybe that's a Tony question, but.
Well, I think Adelat is a question. We can show all of the water rights upstream of a particular point on a stream in any basin. And so, yes, you would be able to at least get an idea of where you fall within the priority system.
And then what you do with that information is whatever you would want to do with it as a water user, right?
And similarly, as if you have a junior right, you could look downstream and see which senior users diversions would have to be met before water would be available for you to divert.
Right.
So once you run that analysis and visualize it, we provide the ability to download that data, and you could kind of do more work with it and analyze it in a maybe different way. But yeah.
Well, I don't know if you can show that.
So the system is slower now since we have, let me see how many users live. I don't know who the users are. It's just Google Analytics will tell me the state they are in and sort of the city. But we have 22 live users. Thank you all for joining. Let me see. Yes, okay, so I share the screen. Okay, so I'm sharing the screen and it's much slower than it was before, but hopefully we'll wait a minute here. So Roger, what I've done, I dropped the pin somewhere at the mouth of the Bear River here in Utah, which feeds the Great Salt Lake. And as you probably know, the Salt Lake is dying or like shrinking, which has a lot of impact on us here. And it's just, okay, let me remove this default. Okay, so I dropped the pin and asked the question, what are the water rights upstream of here? And it's kind of a tributary. It's not the Bear, the entire Bear, but it's a tributary to it. And so it showed me here's the stem of this river, and then all the permitted points of diversions and places of use along the stem. I'm trying to remember. Oh, I dropped actually the pin here, and it showed me upstream of this. It's kind of very small watershed here, and then all the way downstream of it.
So how do you get to the senior or junior? Is there a way of filtering all of those dots by seniority?
Yes, and we worked so hard with it, and it cost us more money, more than expected, with the IT contractor, that we linked them with our system where you could, filter. Let's see if you want to look at only agriculture water use, and then priority date. This is 1922, so that's pretty well. In Utah, it depends. So let's see 1870. And then let me actually turn off. I forgot to mention that we're showing these pink or they're peach or orange color dots are EPA water quality sites, and they're USGS gauge stations. These are the blue ones. Let me turn them off. And so you're looking at, these are senior agriculture water rights upstream here of the Great Salt Lake, or a tributary to the Bear River, that they date back to 1870. Does that help?
Yeah, and I guess, and this is probably would take a significant amount of effort to actually, and now I see where the priority dates, you put the actual date range, but there is no way to actually kind of rank them, like, which one of those green dots is from 1870, which one is 1865, which one is 1860, to kind of rank them in priority date order.
Right. Tony actually suggested this a while back, that now there is a way, if you go down here, let's see, I mean, the sky's the limit in IT, what we could do. So what we support now, we realize that no matter what we support, it's not going to be enough to different users. And this is not working for some reason now. We could download this data and then do the ranking in a spreadsheet, like sort them. We could build the ranking. The trick is that the ranking can be dynamic based on the scope of the query, and it would take some work to do it and show you, yes, the ranking here, whether through kind of visually, like in the size, or.
But
just,
you you could download the data, you can provide the data table, and as you said, you could download it perhaps to an Excel file and then sort by priority date.
Yeah, exactly. And for some reason now it's not working. I mean, that's a good test to know, probably because of the stress on the system. But yes, so yeah, that's very.
And what you're looking at is a tributary to the Bear. And from a policy perspective, this could be important as well to understand what those rights are and the priority date, as the state of Utah has appropriated $40 million to try and put water back into the Great Salt Lake because of its declining levels. And that water would primarily, I believe, come from agricultural use. So some of those water rights that are being displayed could be, they could voluntarily transfer their rights or under a temporary lease or seasonal and forego their use so that that water would reach the Great Salt Lake.
Roger, does that help?
Yeah, I think, sorry, I was eating. That's the, by downloading the table, that's exactly what I was looking at.
Great. Okay, I'll make sure to if you look up for any interesting example, in anywhere in the West, one really interesting feature, costs us some money to build, but you see the URL at the top here, it changes based on the filters you use. So you could share the link with me if you face any problem. You could share this link with me. It's going to be a little bit long, but I can replicate exactly the filters or the issue that you have, and then we'll investigate it. And you can share the link with others. It's like, hey, this is interesting. What do you think of this situation? Yeah.
Yeah, because the other kind of application, I just pulled up like into the Salton Sea. So what are the Colorado River rights out of the, and I don't know if it would show up that way if it's a diversion that far. Does it show up that way in terms of priority dates coming from the actual Colorado River into the Colorado River aqueduct in California, to be able to see the priority users in California or Nevada or Arizona?
We have, let me see. So we have two limitations. I think the infrastructure, like if there's a canal, I don't know, sometimes where the state put the point of diversion, whether it's at the beginning or end of the canal. And then the second thing is that our tool has a limitation, this navigation upstream and downstream, of 500 kilometers upstream, because I think you could, if you drop the pin at the bottom of the river, then it's going to be so much for the tool to run there on the screen, and it can crash your computer. The process, what is it called? The visual.
So it would be diversion, Roger. It would be diversions. There are out below Lake Havasu, I believe, in Parker Dam. The water for.
Yeah, there's a diversion at Parker that I see, and then a couple right at Lake Havasu. But yeah, I guess I was just getting at, you don't necessarily have to walk me through it with a bunch of people on here, but I think it would be a very interesting kind of exercise to sit down with, who are the senior users within that point of diversion moving forward. Meaning, the senior users, and then who might be willing to give up their water rights or sell their rights if there were money for them to be purchased, maybe, I don't know, $4 billion. So
I think just around the Salton Sea there within California, your polygon, you don't want to include Arizona.
Yeah, okay, sure, yeah, let me delete it. So there's this tool here to the right side. You can draw any, I need to delete it. I think, Ryan, you're better at this than me. Let me see. There's a way to delete.
There's a delete key on the far right side of the screen next to your select, once you've got it selected.
Thank you. And I'm kind of lost. Where is the state boundary exactly here?
So it's right there, the Colorado River.
Right, the river.
Oh, it's the,
So it's all the way down. The purple's Nevada.
I'll leave it for you, everyone, to play around with this. And so if you double click, and then it would sort of end, and you could filter these, down, narrow them down, based on the priority date and beneficial use and so such like that. We do have an owner name, and sometimes we try to look at the Los Angeles Water and Power Department and look at all their water rights in California. That's another way, if the state provided those owner names. And it's not the most Google smart owner name. Like, it just looks for any keywords that are included in the owner name in the database. But if you
why
have
don't
a
you
title,
see if you can put an Imperial Irrigation District as the owner.
it's all right. If I just say Imperial, did I spell it right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's zoom out. Are there Imperial? And sometimes, because of this feature Mapbox, it's trying to render like 1.5 million, and even if you filter them down, it's hard. Like, if you search for your house, you wouldn't know until. So yeah, you zoom in. So we have this table, and it would list anything that has Imperial in its name, and you could download it and filter it down. I guess.
And you filter by state, just limit it to California.
That's smart. Yes. Okay. It's still, we need to kind of zoom in. Where would the Imperial be? Up here, right?
No, it's with this Salton Sea.
Oh, down here.
So it's the very south, that area.
Right where your cursor was.
Oops, sorry.
There to the south, actually to the border with Mexico. So that area.
I'm not, for some reason, seeing. But say here's a massive. Let's see. Click at this homepage here. It would take us to. So we provided this link. If you've seen what I've done here, if you click at this link, it would give you Imperial Irrigation District, 1933, and here's their point of diversion. Let me see if I zoom out. It's kind of to this.
That's on the Colorado River.
And we needed to add a comma here, like 1,000 comma, because that's hard for me to read. The number, what is that? Is that?
$9.4 million acre feet.
That's a lot. Is that true? I mean, 9 million? Oh, it's for
But it also
power.
says it's a power beneficial use.
Right. Okay. Interesting. But they must have another one for irrigation in the area.
So those are the kinds of different beneficial uses you would have to just screen for or filter for
Right.
like irrigation and.
So here's irrigation. I mean, it should be here, right? Anyway, I'll let maybe Roger, if you want to play around. It seems like only there's a single. Yeah, it's a 7 million acre feet. There's this one here, and they have a right for half of the the Colorado flow. It seems like it's here it is, irrigation.
Again, that's a diversion right.
True.
It's
yes,
not a depletion.
Correct. Yes. So, any other issues or bugs? Did anyone did the tool crash for you? Any one of you there? And so for the fun of it, here are the live users of all of you. They're 23, and you can see Montana, they're the bigger dots. So thank you all, Montana folks. And I saw Alaska. So thank you, yeah, for joining us. We'll be documenting this traffic, so thank you so much. And here's another one for server response time and requests and failed requests. We're going to investigate these failed ones here. This is fun. And Roger, I would be happy to chat with you and kind of look into more specific examples or issues that you're facing or trying to resolve.
Yeah, I think it would just take playing with it for a while.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a question in the chat. Is there a way that I drop a shapefile to delineate an admin boundary such as my field office?
That's a great question. We looked into supporting that. It's on the to-do list. It depends on our budget if we can afford to do it. But we would love to get some of those requests for you because they would justify for us to prioritize these fixes and additions in the future. Right now, it does not. So that's a quick question. But hopefully, by some of those basic tools like a draw polygon, if you're sort of familiar with that area, that will help you a little bit. We have another planned feature to support regulatory overlays or any kind of shapes across the West, sort of counties, basins, and active management areas in Arizona, for example, or Sigma-based groundwater basins in California. And you can cookie cut those shapes based on this tool. We potentially could support it, but still, it's on our to-do list. But we could say have reclamation field office area or regional areas as part of that tool. They would be pre-built. But I think, yeah, it would be really nice to have a upload shapefile and cut those down to that area. We have the dashboard here. I hope many of you were able to join it, and I see some of those visitors adding notes. So we'd appreciate any of those requests or comments if you could just double click like this and add a comment here. You could zoom in, obviously, and zoom out.
Yes, that is great to have. And I'll also say before we close out that we will be having an encore of this webinar. So we'll do it again live in January, because I know there were a lot of people that couldn't make it today, some conflicts from a couple of the agencies. So we will be holding this again. So you can come back and try it out again with Otto and Ryan helping out. And this has just been really helpful to see how things work live. So I think folks will enjoy having that second option as well. There is one more question in the chat. What are the options for downloading data sets?
So you would need to create an account. It's free. It's just like it helps us in download. It's a hit on the server. So yes. So here is, if you click analytics and table at the bottom, there's data table and pie charts, which give you the analytics. The data table here, if you click download up here, it would ask you, yeah, there's a limit of up to 100,000 writes. Otherwise, you'll contact us and then we'll help you with that request. And so once you create an account, I'll show you, it downloads basically CSV, comma, delimited files. You can open them in Excel. I think 7 tables along with a disclaimer and all that, and even a URL that would replicate your request if you want. And it would, yeah, so it would have all that data for you. Oh, sorry, I should have. In an Excel, a zip file actually, so you need to have one of those tools to unzip the 7 files, I think. Whoa, password isn't correct. Okay, that's embarrassing.
This is how we figure all these little quirks out, right?
Yeah.
Well, we're almost to the top of the hour, so I guess, does anyone else have any other questions that they haven't been able to post on the whiteboard or into the chat? Please let folks know if you hear that they couldn't make it today, that we will be doing this again. And in the meantime, yeah, check it out and let us know what you think.
Yeah, definitely feel free to reach out to any of us and let us know if you have a request or issues or in any way we can help you. We're happy to do so.
All right, well, I'm seeing lots of thank yous, so I don't think there's any additional questions at this time. Oh, nice. We have a follow-up comment. All right, well, thanks everyone for joining. We'll go ahead and finish out the webinar today. Again, please join us next time if you like what you've seen or want to know more information. We welcome you to join again next. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you all.